The other day we are talking about this Magga Satya, the truth of the path, which is to be practiced or developed by Dhamma. They are to be practiced, developed, enhanced. All these things are to be taken upon oneself. They are none other than the noble path of a constituents. They are made up of 3 groups, namely Sila Khanda, the morality group, Samadhi Khanda, concentration group, and Panya Khanda, wisdom group. So this way they can be divided into 3 groups. Because they are to be taken upon yourself as your training, it is known as Sekha, training. If one can fulfill oneself with this training, then one will be able to overcome impurities, mental impurities such as greed, hatred and delusion, in 3 categories, namely gross, medium and refined, which can occur in one's mind, body and speech, so that one's physical, mental behaviors will become worthy. Being free from these impurities, one's behaviors will become, if one is not free from these immoral deeds, then one's physical, verbal, mental behaviors will become blameworthy, impure, gross. There will be undermining elements, they will be impure and despicable. They will not be affable. When one is able to take upon oneself this training, Sekha, and then become fulfilled with this training, one's physical, verbal, mental behaviors will become blameless, pure, gentle, peaceful, affable, and tranquil, calm, because one's behaviors will be free from this agitation, turbulence. Hence, this is called sadhana training, Buddha's teaching. So when we combine these things, it becomes the Sila Khanda, the morality group, the concentration group, and the Panya group. Or they can also be called morality teaching, Sila Sadhana, Samadhi Sadhana, concentration teaching, and Panya Sadhana, wisdom teaching. Because one can practice this teaching, this is known as the 3 forms of teaching. When one has undertaken this training, Sekha, one will be able to behave as a human being. If one can take upon oneself the Samadhi Sekha, concentration training, then one will be able to possess the mentality of a human being. And furthermore, if one can practice wisdom, take wisdom training, then one will be above average, whether one is a lay person or a monk. One will be above average. And in this way, the practice of the Dhamma, or the Dhamma which you have practiced, uplifts, upgrades the practitioner, so that the practitioner will not be downgraded, not degraded. One's value will be uplifted. Today we shall continue with this subject, both from the theoretical and practical aspects. So it is important that these trainings are taken upon oneself, try to develop them, accomplish the function of this practicing Satipatthana, through your mindfulness, you are said to be also practicing the noble path of ecoscience. Because you are cultivating this Magga Satya, the truth of the path. You are taking upon yourself, you are said to have accomplished the function of bhavana, what is to be developed. Then what is to be developed, the function of developing, is said to be accomplished. So every time one is noting and knowing, one is said to be developing the Magga Satya, the truth of the path, which is made up of the three paths, namely Sila Magga, Samadhi Magga and Prajna Magga. And as a result of the practice, we are free from the impurities in three forms, gross, medium and refined. This can be validated with your own personal experience. Every time one practices mindfulness, namely this Lokiya Magga, the mundane or worldly aspect of the path, or Magga Satya, or Vipassana Magga, the path of insight, we are also practicing what is known as Pubbabhaga Magga, the forerunner or the preliminary path. As one progresses along the path of insight knowledge and coming to the fulfillment, reaching the maturity peak of the practice, until both the mind, noting mind and the noted object disappears, dissolves all at once. That means Bhavata coming to Abhavata, or Bhavata becoming Abhavata in Pali. Bhavata means the process of mind-body, which is continuing to arise in a conditioned manner, the process of cause and effect, flowing like a current, such as all the sense impressions, such as hearing, seeing, touching and so on. And then when the yogis are noting, the noting mind is proceeding like a current, that is bhavana mind is continuing, proceeding. That also comes under this heading Bhavata, because they are proceeding like a current. So Bhavata is conditioned, they are caused by some elements, hence it is known as sankhara, conditioned things. Now as for the abhavata, which is the reverse of that, this is the cutting off or cessation or extinction of this mind-body process, or the process of cause and condition, that is seeing nibbana. So while one is noting and knowing these conditioned phenomena, one comes to the cessation, one reaches the cessation of these psychophysical phenomena, rising and passing away of psychophysical phenomena. Such is realizing the noble path, Ariya Magga, and making this nibbana as one's object. Such is known as Saccikariya, accomplishing the function of realization. In the case of insight practice, before one reaches that stage, which is known as Pubbabhaga Magga, forerunner path, or preliminary path, this is just working in order to reach the stage of realization. At the moment of the practice of insight, Vipassana, we are cultivating this Vipassana Samadhi, the right understanding or right view of insight, which is known as Lokiya Magga, the worldly or mundane aspect of the path. And as for the Ariya Magga, which goes at the end of this Lokiya Magga, or beyond this Lokiya Magga, is known as Lokuttara, supramundane, going beyond the mundane, past the mundane, past the arising and passing away of psychophysical phenomena. Such is Ariya Magga, the noble path, path of the attained ones. As for the Vipassana Magga, the insight path, it is known as Pubbabhaga Magga, the forerunner or preliminary path. So in the course of the practice of insight, noting every arising object, you are said to be weakening these mental and negative tendencies of the mind until at last you can overcome these kilesas to the point of no return. It's just like in a boxing match in which when two opponents are competing, you would, if you want to win, you would avoid the blows from your opponent, while avoiding the blows from the opponent. You look for a chance to hit him back, or hit him or her back. Nowadays there are also women fighters, boxers. So you can hit him or hit her back with forceful blow. First of all, with one blow, you can weaken that opponent. Then the second blow, third blow, with continuous blows, you are weakening your opponent with forceful blows. You are weakening them further until when that opponent is so weak that he or she cannot resist, cannot return your blows, you just hit him or her until at last, with one forceful blow, one last blow, you hit him or her out. Knock out. Finish the job. So also, you are weakening these negative tendencies of the mind with your insight practice, noting every arising object, and then avoiding these negative tendencies. At the same time, giving forceful blows by way of forceful noting with full mental powers, and while in the meantime you are weakening your kilesas, negative tendencies, until at last you reach the maturity of your practice, at the peak of the practice. You become fulfilled with the practice. You give the final forceful blow to knock out these kilesas to the point of no return, so that you are said to be reaching Apavada from Pavada, from process to non-process. So just the last forceful blow, the forceful noting mind, realizing the noble path, Ariya Magga, by which you are eradicating these defilements, to the respective defilements, to the point of no return, so that they will be able to raise their heads again and attack you. So in order to give this final forceful blow, to knock out these kilesas to the point of no return, you are practicing this forerunner or preliminary path by way of insight practice. Just like the saying, guard yourself with vigilant mindfulness. You have to guard yourself with sati, because mindfulness has the property of protection. And you are noting continuously, like giving forceful blows by a boxer, with full force, with the mobilization of all mental powers, every second, every moment of the practice, gradually weakening the negative tendencies until you reach non-process abhavada from process bhavada. Then these negative undermining elements are knocked down to the point of no return. Just at that point you are said to have finished the job. So when we are competing with one another, or each other, in this case kilesas and the practitioner, just like in the boxing match, if you are always vigilant waiting for an opportunity to give the final forceful blow. You have to be vigilant every moment of the practice when you are competing with these negative tendencies. You have to be constantly mindful, sati. Then only you will win the match, because you are in competition, keen competition. From the start of the match or the practice, you have the prior practice also. You have already done the practice with courage and mindfulness, energy and mindfulness. You are bound to gain the upper hand. Within minutes, you can finish the job and win the match. If, however, you are slack and you are the loser, you will become chronic patient. You will become chronic yogis. Although you are practicing day in and day out, you won't be able to win the match. You will become a chronic yogi. You are losing to these kilesas, defilements. So from the start, you've got to be vigilant and watch for an opportunity to give final blow, forceful blow. That means mobilize full mental powers with force so that you gain the upper hand. Then you'll be able to win the match when you're competing with kilesas. As for these impurities, they are worthy to be abandoned. They have to be abandoned. And as for the opposite states, namely the wholesome deeds, that is the practice of Vipassana, the Bhavana practice is wholesome deeds which can always win. The winner should be the winner. However, if the defilements, impurities, which are really the losers, will win over you, then it won't be nice for you. Because you're allowing these things to arise in your stream of consciousness by being slack in the practice. But you must be able to mobilize mental powers in order to win over these negative tendencies. Because there's no such thing as, in the history of Vipassana, there's no such thing as the unwholesome deeds, that is negative tendencies winning over the positive things, that is kusalas. It is only the wholesome deeds, the practice of Vipassana, Bhavana mind, wins over the unwholesome negative tendencies. This mundane or worldly path, which is Pubbabhaga Magga, the forerunner path and the practice of insight, or the preliminary path leading to the final path, namely Ariya Magga, the noble path. Now, how are they different? As for the Pubbabhaga Magga, the forerunner or the preliminary path, it arises at the moment of practicing mindfulness of every arising mind-body objects which arises in yourself, knowing the true nature of these objects. That's the seeing, knowing, directly knowing, fully knowing the truth of suffering, dukkha satya, accomplishing the direct knowing of the truth of suffering. All these ever-arising objects in the body are truth of suffering, which are to be noted. And this is, while you are noting it, this is Magga Satya, because you are practicing the path. So once you note and know dukkha satya, the truth of suffering, the group of defilements, the defilement group, namely vajjatana, upadana, ignorance, craving and clinging or grasping, because if you don't know, unknowing, as we say, unknowing mind clings. So too, if you do not know the true nature of the objects, you are bound to cling, you are bound to grasp. Such is avajjatana upadana, the group of defilements, ignorance, craving and grasping. Once you are mindful and fully aware, knowing the truth, the knowledge arises, knowledge arises. Then this ignorance, this avijjana upadana, the kilesa group, have no chance of arising in your stream of consciousness. By not giving a chance, they are said to have been abandoned, overcome. Thus, the function of abandonment is said to be accomplished. So once you understand with knowledge, there's a Vajrana Upadana, which is the Kilesa group, Kilesa Vada, they come to cessation. They're said to cease, at least momentarily. When this Vajrana Upadana, the Kilesa group, ceases, then the Kama Vada, the round of action, which is the result of this defilement, will also cease to exist, will be overcome. Then the third round, namely Vipassana, the round of resultant, which results from your action when you perform these actions, karma. Now you are not performing action leading to the round. This vipaka, the resultant, also will come to cessation. Of course, this is not complete or ultimate cessation. It is a momentary cessation or part-time cessation, tatanga. So you are said to be realizing, accomplishing the function of realizing. In this way, when we analyze this bhavana mind, the meditative mind, this will be made up of three parts, namely Sila Magga, the three constituents of Sila group, the morality path, the three constituents of Samadhi Magga, the concentration path, and the two constituents of Panya Magga, the wisdom path, which make up 8 Four Noble Paths. So you are at this point, when you are practicing the bhavana mind, when you are practicing meditation, the meditation of the bhavana mind has these three groups. They are none other than the practice of the noble path, that is the practice of the path. Thus, you are accomplishing the function of the path. So once you understand, you know directly and understand fully the truth of suffering, dukkha satya, you are also accomplishing other functions, namely the truth of overcoming, the truth of origin, the truth of the path, the truth of realization, and the truth of the path. So with one blow, 4 shots. With one blow you get 4 shots. Or one pluck, 4 punch. You get 4 things with one pluck. You are accomplishing 4 things with one thing, with just doing one thing. In this case. So from pavada you come to apavada, from process to non-process. That is the non-process, coming to cessation or overcoming the end of the process. That means the relevant or respective negative tendencies come to cessation. Because of the cessation or extinction, even temporarily, of this defilement group, the karma actions performed, there will be no actions performed. The action is said to have come to cessation, leading to the cessation of the resultant, vipaka. There will be no existence, no new existence, vipaka. So seeing nibbana, coming to abhavada from bhavada, Coming to non-process, that is seeing Nibbana, making Nibbana the object, you are said to accomplish the other truths, namely the truth of suffering, knowing and understanding the truth of suffering, abandoning the truth of the origin, the practicing, undertaking, or realizing the extinction, the path of extinction, the truth of extinction, and that the path of the practice, Magga Satya, the truth of the path. So with just realization of the Ariya Magga, the noble path, seeing Nibbana as an object, other truths are accomplished. The function of other truths are accomplished. That means the knowing and understanding of dukkha satya, the truth of suffering, abandoning the truth of origin, and practicing the truth of the path are said to be accomplished. So with just one thing, you have accomplished all the four satya, for the truths. So this is how the four truths are accomplished by just realizing one truth in terms of worldly matter and supramundane. They are of course different, but one belongs to the worldly arena, and the other one is supramundane. This way, this is how the four truths are accomplished. Every time one sees dukkha satya, the truth of suffering, by noting and knowing, and every time one sees Nibbana, all the truths are understood. So every time one is understanding one truth, one is said to be understanding other three truths. This kind of practice is none other than the practice of Satipatthana Bhavana, mind development by way of the way of mindfulness. Whoever practices the Satipatthana Bhavana is bound to understand these four truths. So what is most important is to undertake the practice of a path. So if one practices, then one practices by knowing and noting and knowing the dukkha satya, other truths also will be involved. In this connection, there's a reference to this, namely the Viddhada Sutta, the discourse on the laws. As for the Satipatthana, it is the practice of the way of mindfulness by being mindful of the four kinds of objects, sustaining your one's mindfulness, applying it. And there are four aspects, four kinds of objects. Object of the body, then object of feeling, mind, and general objects or general activities. And as for the body object, mindfulness of the body, or mindfulness directed to the body, they are concerned with what is happening in your body. Whatever happens in your body, such as the heat, cold, hardness, softness, stiffness, tension, movement, cohesion, flowing, fluidity, all these things are materialities which arise in your body. And by noting them continuously, contemplating them, is known as Kayanupassana Satipatthana, the practice of the mindfulness of contemplating the mind, contemplating the body. And then when you are noting continuously every feeling or sensations which arise in your body, that is Viddhana Vipassana Satipatthana, mindfulness by contemplating continuously the feeling. At times your mind is pure, at other times your mind is impure, with lust, craving and things like that. That you note at the very moment of the arising of whether the pure or impure mind. And such is known as Chaitanya Vipassana Satipatthana, mindfulness by contemplating the mind. And there are other general activities such as seeing, hearing, tasting, touching. All these things are to be noted, and such a practice is known as contemplating the general activities, dukkha, vipassana, satipatthana. In this way, there are 4 different kinds of objects, namely kaya, vedana, citta, dhamma, and the mindfulness also will be different according to the object noted. So, whoever undertakes the practice of satipatthana, mindfulness, of these 4 kinds of objects, is said to be undertaking the Magga Satya, cultivating the Magga Satya. But whoever does not undertake the practice of mindfulness or satipatthana, or even if one does practice, one is not doing meticulously, one is doing marginally, not respectfully and carefully, then one will suffer loss in respect of the noble path of eight constituents. That means one will be losing the practice of the noble path of eight constituents. And on the other hand, if one is able to practice the noble path, the 4 satipatthana, for mindfulness, respectfully, carefully, cherishing the practice, appreciating the result of the practice, taking upon oneself so that one becomes fulfilled with this, then one will not be losing, one will be gaining the noble path of eight constituents. This subject will be discussed tomorrow. The noble path of eight constituents. This subject will be discussed tomorrow. The noble path of eight constituents. This subject will be